Everyone, welcome back to the Libertas International podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Schwab, and I'm just so honored to be here on this show specifically because I'm talking about 2023 and what an amazing year it was for all of us at Libertas International, all the things that you listeners, you donors, you supporters made happen. And, I was getting ready for this episode. I got my caffeine in the morning, sitting at my desk. I'm just looking at all these AI pictures that we make of the survivors. When they come into the Libertas family, we ask them for 15 selfies, and we put it in like this AI application, and it kicks out just like these gorgeous, beautiful pictures of art that we then give to them as a gift. And in the end, like, we'll always be a survivor organization. We'll always support them first and foremost. We will always never let their voices die. And the survivor told me that toward the end of the year as we were celebrating the arrest of Jaymes Shutle. And it's just something that I hold so dear, to that phrase of just never letting our voice die is what she asked me to do. And so that's what we've decided to do. We'll decide to do that until the end of time, is to never let their voices die and to always support them in what they're doing, what they're looking to accomplish, and how we can continue to support them. And then continue to support our law enforcement officials all over the world. We've had some stuff happen in the last couple of weeks that have kind of questioned my belief in the justice system. It's questioned the effectiveness of it. And some of the stuff, I'll tell you guys on later podcasts, it's just stuff that will make your head scratch. Just like, what in the hell happened there? But when justice does happen and it's in the right way, it's something very beautiful and very healing for members of our survivor family. So I'm thinking of 2023 and all we've accomplished. It all started out in Mexico. We had this request come in of this survivor who was hurt pretty bad with the abuse that she suffered. She's very young. She's 4 years old, and she went deaf. The connection to her ears didn't work from her brain, and to allow her to hear again, she had to get a cochlear implant. And so I actually got a call from a buddy, and all this information you can find if you're more of a reader. You can find all this on our website, on our social media channels, our 2023 in review. But for those of you that commute, or that walk, or that run on the treadmill, there is a podcast just for you. This podcast. It's so I got a call from my buddy who works out in DEEF, which is basically like the CPS, Child Protective Services of Mexico, and he called me and he was like, "Hey, I have this survivor and she needs an implant, but the implant is $25,000." And so we were like, "Oh my gosh, like that's so expensive." And but one of our mindsets here, it's always been for the one. That when a case comes across our desk and we can help and we can support, that we'll find the funding to do so. And we had a very, very, very generous donor step up from Texas and fund that surgery 100%. And so then that girl is being healed. She's now learning to use her cochlear implant. And it was right then. It was such a unique project that we were asked to support, which I'd never supported anything like that before. So I knew this year was going to be very special. The year continued to be just quite amazing. This podcast launched this year, and so a lot of the stories that we were telling you, some of them are from this year, some of them are from years past. There's an episode called "I Will Be Their Voice Today." And it's the story of Project Bat Bridge down in Austin, Texas, with the pedophile Michael Roberts, the school teacher who was traveling to and from Colombia to abuse 3 girls. In that podcast, you hear about that case, that man, and the bravery that the survivors went through to be able to put this guy behind bars. And he was sentenced this year. I had the privilege of going down to his sentencing, speaking before the judge, speaking before him, his parents, and telling about what a monster he is, and asking the judge to give him the harshest sentence possible. And I'll never forget, like, just one of the statements in one of our girls' victim impact statements was, if I could go back in time and change what would happen to you, I wouldn't go back. Or if I could go back in time and change the past, I wouldn't go back and change what happened to me. I would go back and try to convince your mother never to give birth to you. It would be a better place if you had never been born. You're a monster. You will never change. And to have that read in federal court and have his parents listen to that, like, that was crazy. And she listened to it too. I don't know if I told you guys this part of the story in the podcast, but just we tried to get her a visa for a long time, and just we didn't luck out and get her one in time to come to sentencing. And so we rented an Airbnb for her best friend, and her dog. Her best friend is also part of our survivor family, and just bought her some Burger King. It's her favorite food, and just allowed her to listen and just relax. And so when she was listening to the sentencing, she got pretty emotional, specifically when the judge gave his sentence to Michael Roberts, because the judge had some pretty harsh words for him, and he took $150,000 from him. So this girl had a chance to read testimony via phone call in court, had a chance to listen to the whole proceeding, and the part that touched her the most is when the judge validated everything that she had been through and gave Michael Roberts the sentencing that he did. Why is that? She said that everyone in that room is paid to help her. And she's not wrong. Obviously, like, it's my full-time job. The agents from Homeland Security, the psychologist, all of us are essentially paid to support this girl. But the judge is not. The judge is not paid to support her. And so when he said that, as in all essence, a neutral observer, it's what meant the most to her and what allowed her to heal and allowed her to cry and then continue to enjoy the day in the Airbnb that we had rented out for her. And it was awesome. And this girl, she, I'll stick on this topic for a second and talk about the Shield of D-Pro. The Shield of D-Pro is the highest honor that a foreigner can receive from the Colombian government. And so last year I received a medal from the Colombian government, which I thought was amazing. I have it hanging up in my apartment. It's an awesome thing. And they called me again last year, end of last year, and said that I'd been nominated for the Shield of D-Pro. And then in around May of this year, they told me that I got it. And for me, it was such a huge honor. Like, I just feel so honored that this country that I love so much would honor me in this way. But it's not really mine. Like, if we're being 100% honest, it's not really mine. It's my team's. They're the ones that support so much, that do so many amazing things around Latin America, and it's the survivors that we're blessed to work with. It's their award. They're the ones that make this work so fun, that make it so valuable, that make it so meaningful, that make it so worthwhile. And so for the medal ceremony last year, we invited 5 survivors to come down to Bogota and just celebrate. Got to eat, go see the Senate building, just take pictures, do all this stuff. So this year we doubled it. We invited 10 survivors to come down, one of which was the survivor from this Project Bat Bridge, to all come down, travel down to Bogota, be a part of the ceremony, get some lunch, ride on an airplane. And for me, it was just awesome. Like, the award wouldn't mean, it would be meaningful, don't get me wrong, but it means so much more to share it with them. These people that make it so special, these people that mean so much to me. And I was receiving the award, I just kept looking at them. I'm just like, oh, you guys are so beautiful. You guys are the best award. Like, this award is great. I'm going to put it in my house and brag to my mom or whatever. But you guys are the true award. Like, the blessing that I have that you guys will come to this thing and just hang out and just support me. I just feel so honored. And it was awesome. My cousin was there. My best friend was there. It was a beautiful experience. And I'm so honored that Libertas International received the Shield of D-Pro this year. because I think it validates so much of what we're trying to do here at Libertas and how we work with foreign law enforcement to protect children in Colombia. And it's not lost on me that I would get that, specifically for Colombia, where the Colombia, if you read the history, has really suffered a long time because of the influence of the United States and the addictions that the United States has. In the narco wars in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't Colombian money that was fueling all that narco terrorism. It was American money because of the American addiction to cocaine. And now I think it's even elevated to where the most vulnerable of Colombia suffers because of the actions of Americans who are addicted to sex, pornography, CSAM, all these different things. Colombia continues to suffer. And so it's not lost on me that myself as a foreigner, that I'm allowed to work side by side by these people helping their most vulnerable. A big case that really dominated our attention this year was Project Archangel. And Project Archangel, if you followed our social media for any amount of time, it talks about Jaymes Shulte Bond, who is an American MMA fighter from Arizona who would travel around the world, abuse kids, abuse women, film them discreetly, and then upload to all these different porn sites: Telegram, Pornhub, Xvideos, FanView, all these different accounts. What's crazy is a Wyoming-based article did a story about the arrest of Jaymes Bond, and they mentioned Libertas. And so one of their followers, he noticed that this guy had content on FanView. And he wrote FanView on our behalf and was like, "Hey, you got to take this guy down. This guy's been accused of sex trafficking, the creation of CSAM, all these different things." And FanView, like a employee, kind of got after him, where he was like, "You can't verify this. These news articles are in question," because we were the first to break the news. And this this employee of FanView supposedly clicked on our website and it wasn't loading properly. It must have been like under maintenance or something. And she was like, "It's highly questionable." And then the news broke. Everybody broke the news. HSI, DOJ, Arizona family, everybody broke the news. And then she deleted her comments and we can't find his stuff. So that's something. But he got arrested. We chased this guy all over the world. He went from Colombia to Mexico to Panama to the Philippines to Thailand to Japan, and he tried to go down to Argentina, and that's where they got him. Sent him back to Miami, where our partners took him. And now we work with the DOJ to get the restitution and make sure that he serves a long time in jail. That's our current job right now here at Libertas International, to ensure that happens. But people ask me what my thoughts are on this case, this international sex trafficking case, and I tell them that the world owes these Colombian women and children a debt that they'll never be able to repay. It was these girls who were the ones that spoke up and collaborated and waited with justice to make sure this guy couldn't do this to any more women. This guy has, I think when the dust settles in 10 years, you'll have over 100 victims of Jaymes Bond, Shulte, or whatever the hell we're calling him. And it's the girls in Colombia that stood up and said, "No more. This is not okay, and I'm going to get help and talk to law enforcement." And thanks to them, this guy will be rotting in jail for a long, long time. So that was a big case. With all the cases that we work, Libertas International this year, let me pull up the stat real quick just to make sure I get these numbers correct. I won't want to misspeak in any way. So this year at Libertas International, we were able to recover 37 survivors of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, sexual abuse in Latin America. We're able to assist in the arrest of 35 abusers, and there were over 200 survivors that were impacted by our work. Why do I mention that number? First off, I'm very proud of that number. It will not be as high as other organizations that you see that do recovery work. And there's a reason for that, is we want to verify the donations that you give. If you're giving, it would be super easy for me, for example, who's the go-between law enforcement or whoever to fund an operation, a rescue recovery operation, have them tell me that they rescued 10 survivors, and then I report back to you that we did 15, and make the number look a little bigger than what it really is. And even then, if I can't verify the people behind those numbers, am I really making the impact that I want to make? And so at Libertas, our numbers are always going to be lower because we will not report them to our donors, our supporters, our social media following unless we can verify those numbers with a name, a location, and a phone number. Those are the three records. So if we're reporting to you 35 survivors that have been recovered this year by Libertas International, it's because we can verify at the very least their name, their location, their phone number, and if they're getting help from us or another entity. So we're very proud of that number. And so it comes up to where we had this case that came up very last minute. We got a phone call from the Colombian National Police and our partners at Homeland Security Investigations about a case that was circling on the dark web. On the dark web, there was this group that had a fetish for violence, for blood, and 3 kids were being abused on this site, and their abuse was being uploaded onto the internet, on the dark web. And they were able to ID the kids and where they went to school based on, in one of the videos, the kid's school uniform. His logo was on his uniform. And so they identified the 2 traffickers, identified the 3 victims, all young, 9, 7, and 5, I believe is what their ages were. And they needed help to do the rescue ASAP because, like I said, it was very violent. It was life-threatening, and they could not wait on the slow-moving gears of either government to get the funding that they needed. And so they got a grant from Libertas International to fly up a team to that part of the country, pay for a rental car, and go get those kids out. And that's what's detailed in Project ICE 9 that resulted in the freedom of some very small kids. And I bring that up because we don't do undercover. We have our director of justice in Colombia who can support undercover operations every once in a while, but he's a Colombian national. We are not an undercover group. We believe that there are better uses for funding. And we support our vetted law enforcement partners with any kind of budget shortfalls they may have. But we do not do undercover. We don't want to create any victims, any perpetrators. We want to catch the guys who are actually doing this. And so that's why something like Project ICE 9 is so important. You know, this year at Libertas International, we had so many survivors accomplish so many amazing things. Like, it's crazy. But the one that sticks out in my head, and I'll talk about her a couple different times on this podcast, is Xiomara. And I use her real name, because she joined our board of directors, and she's open about her experience, and she chose to do that. She graduated vet school. This has been like a 5-year process. She's always been crazy about animals. She wanted to study vet school, and it's been a long process. Like, she's had 2 kids in the meantime, and she finally did it. Finally graduated vet school, and then the next week she hopped on a plane and she came to the Herbert Fletcher sentencing, which, like, again, it's just like the bravery of that moment. Like, that whole trial was crazy. Like, you'll listen to it in one of my favorite episodes of the podcast coming out. It's about the story of Victor Galarza and Herbert Fletcher. And it's crazy. Like, just the bravery it took for her to go to court and to look this guy in the face that abused her, that trafficked her, that uploaded these videos to Pornhub, and to say, you know what, you suck. I hate you. And I hope that this judge throws the freaking book at you. And to stand up for the abuse that she was suffering, even in the sentencing. Like, these guys' lawyers were like, she was just a prostitute. And she went up there and defended herself. She was like, I actually worked at an ice cream shop. I was not a prostitute. Like, your guy found me when I was at my most vulnerable, just trying to make ends meet for myself, my mom, and my grandma. And so that's another case I think it was a huge success because it's the epitome of what Libertas wants to do. It's another American in jail. It's another American pedophile who didn't have a sex offense abuse here in the States. Like, I think that's why these are so important, is that a lot of the guys that we catch, they aren't sex offenders here in the States. They're like secret pedophiles that go and do their dark deeds across the world, where girls don't speak the same language, where they may have darker skin, where they may be more vulnerable, more poor. Like, it's the epitome of so many different things, of just like an American entitlement to women's bodies, racism, sexism, like all these different issues. And we get them before they abuse here. And unfortunately, like, they have victims that they've created in these places. But for me, it's an honor to work with those victims and to catch these guys before they do it here. And so the Fletcher trial the sentencing is such a good example of what Libertas wants to accomplish. Another American in jail, collaboration with Colombian police, Homeland Security, Department of Justice, and then making sure those girls are doing well enough to feel comfortable to testify. Because we believe very much that if a survivor knows that you have their back, they'll be a much better witness. If they know where their next meal is coming from, that they have a house over their head, that they're going to be able to go to school on Monday, they'll be able to collaborate really well with law enforcement, because they know that we've got their backs. Whether they give a great statement or whether they give a bad one, that we've always got their backs. And so our two survivors that traveled up to New York, Xiomara included, they knew we had their backs. They knew that we're totally obsessed with them and that we care so much about them, and so it was just amazing. And just such an act of bravery, like to go to court, in a courtroom looking at a federal judge across the man that abused you and his whole family, and to still speak the truth about what happened in a way that was brave, that was elegant, that was passionate. It's a bravery that I will never achieve. And I just admire so very much. So talking about like Herbie Fletcher, he's a construction company owner, mid-40s, from Philadelphia. Compare that with the trafficker that we helped bring down in a project called Project Gloom Hands. And I'll give you guys a little... So when we're naming operations projects here at Libertas International, a lot of it is based just like on memory of what I'm doing at the time. We usually don't like to name the projects the same as our law enforcement partners, because sometimes they name them after the last name of the perps, which is fine, but it just makes it a little more complicated if we want to tell our donors and supporters. Project Fletcher, we took down Herbert Fletcher. So I actually named them on what I was doing at the time when I got worried about the case that we're going to support. In this case, the new Legend of Zelda had come out, and I named it Gloom Hands. First off, if you guys have played the Zelda game, you know the Gloom Hands it's these hands that kind of pop up in the middle of nowhere and look to bring Link down. Link being our hero. And I named it that because that's what I was doing. Like when I got the phone call, but it was so accurate of what we were experiencing. Is that there was this group of people that were recruiting vulnerable girls in high schools, middle schools, to take them to be trafficked out in Cartagena, a big touristy spot, to local politicians, to local leaders in the community that were involved in this. And the ringleader behind this was actually a 60-year-old woman. She was the Gloom Hand. She was the one that was putting all these people in schools to recruit. And so we supported this operation with the police. We helped with some budget shortfalls that they were having. And when the time came, she bounced to Cartagena, and we supported the cops to fly them out to Cartagena, arrest her, and then bring her back. And we got two amazing survivors in the process that came into our family. Both of them, one of them has her small business already. One of them is looking to start her small business. Both 16 years old and just amazing, amazing young women. Our little family would not be the same without these two wonderful survivors, and this is what Project Gloomhand gave us. One of the things that we also talk about with law enforcement is, if we're going to help support you on an operation, funding wise or whatever, we have to have access to the aftercare. You have to let us at least have access to the kids, have access to the women, the men, help us get them resources with different NGOs, or have them come with us. It's like non-negotiable for us, just because we want to make sure that these people that are rescued have the opportunity to move forward and do what they want to. They would do what they want to do, accomplish what they want to accomplish, and so that's something that we will make happen before we support an operation. And one of the things that I was super excited about this year was the launch of this podcast. This is something I've been wanting to do forever, for a couple of different reasons. For me, it's very therapeutic to put this stuff out in word as well, to have you guys hear what we're experiencing on a daily basis, what the mission of Libertas International looks like. And I also know some really amazing people. They're doing some really amazing things all over the world. This year we've had people on that are doing some amazing things in Mexico, some amazing things even like in Colombia, shared territory with me. Had some survivors come on, talk about the work that they're doing, and it just gets better from here. In the next year, I have episodes in my podcast app that I can't release. Like, I'd love to release these just all at once, but you just can't. You can't do that. But we have someone that talks about the Middle East, the Israel Hamas conflict, and how to protect the vulnerable people in that conflict. Someone coming on that was a former law enforcement officer in Salt Lake City, talking about sex crime in Salt Lake and what it looks to investigate, and the toll it took on him, and why he's such an advocate now for mental health. We have some people that have won the Tip Hero Awards from the State Department coming on. One from Guatemala, one from Peru, one from Colombia. And I'm just so happy about this podcast, as it gives just another avenue for people to hear the work that we're doing and to potentially support this work that we're doing. And so I'm very proud of this podcast we're able to launch in 2023. Two projects that I want to talk about next. Project Crypto Mine and Project Fisherman. And we'll start with Fisherman. Fisherman was a request that came in right before Thanksgiving. And it was another urgent request. It was from our partners at the Peruvian National Police, and then the Peruvian Embassy down there in Lima. And the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children sent them a tip about a little boy who was being sexually molested on TikTok, and his abuse was being uploaded onto TikTok. They had the kid ID'd. They found out where he was. He was in the city of Cusco, but they needed help to get there because it was so last minute. And again, they were like right on the verge of like a government shutdown too, so they weren't sure if they were gonna have any money, and so they asked us for help. And so we, on a couple of different avenues, we partnered with my good friends at at SURF, the Child International Rescue Foundation, and they funded the officers to fly down and arrest the bad guy. And then we provided funding to bring the kid and his mother to Lima, give their statement, and then to have them in a hotel for a few days. And for me, that's, again, just the epitome of how it is, how we work at Libertas International. It's always with law enforcement. We never do things on our own. And we help support the cases that they already have. They brought the tip to us, and then we came alongside them to support them to eventually led to the freedom of this little 10-year-old boy who was being exploited on TikTok. Project Crypto Mine was a little different. Project Crypto Mine involved a guy named Orion Depp. Orion Depp was a crypto influencer from LA, and he was also trafficking girls in Medellin, Colombia. He was a real sicko. He would, if the girls had any body hair at all, before he would abuse them, he would make them shave in front of him. And I have text from this guy that I've seen from one of our survivors where she showed up late once. He put an appointment with her to be raped at like 6 p.m. and she showed up like at 6:40. And he berated her in text. He was like, "You're always so disrespectful. People don't do this." And just berated her verbally for showing up late to her own rape. Like, it's crazy to me. And I'm so glad this guy's in jail. So the report came. We supported the survivors in their healing. We continue to support the survivors in their legal process. And this guy was looking to go to Miami, and they got him in the Bogota airport. And And I'll be honest, like the vengeance part of me really enjoyed seeing that scared look on his face. If you go to our report, you can see a picture of his face when they're arresting him. And for me, it's very satisfying because now he understands the fear that these girls had before they would be abused by this man. And so he's in jail. I'm not sure what he's looking at off the top of my head. I believe it's 25 years in a Colombian jail, because it was the Colombians that got him. And we'll be alongside them the whole way to ensure that the survivors are a key part of that legal process. And so Operation Crypto Mine resulted in 1 arrest and 4 recoveries. And all 4 survivors are doing really well. And we sure are blessed to have them. Speaking of these survivors, one of the survivors in this case specifically, so many survivors, as I mentioned earlier in the show, have started small businesses this year. And we've learned so much on how to manage small businesses, what it looks like to run a small business. And there's a couple different avenues. There's one that's creating a small business from scratch, which one of these survivors from Project Crypto Mine did. She brought this idea of this alcohol cart, essentially, that would make alcohol slushies that she would then sell outside of baseball games, outside of soccer fields, to players that were leaving their sporting events or parents and spectators that were watching. And she's done really well. She sent some really sweet texts the last couple of days, just out of gratitude, of just like, thanks to Libertas International, I've learned that I'm so much more than having to sell my body, and I never have to go back to that life. It brings me so much joy when an American reaches out to me and asking me to go out. I can tell him no, and it's just so beautiful. Another survivor, she went a different route. She didn't want to start her own business. She wanted to purchase an existing business, which was something we had never done before. So she brought us an idea of, like, I found this business for sale. When we start a small business, we usually give them a budget around $3,000 to $7,000, anywhere in there, and it usually ends up being around $5,000. And so she came to us with a proposal. She was like, "Look, I can start my own business for $5,000, or I can buy this existing business for $5,500, and this one already has its own client, its own location. I'm just the new owner." And so we did that instead, and honestly, it's been really awesome. I think we might do more of this in the future, of looking to buy up existing businesses for these survivors, because she has her clients, she has her location, she has people that stop by every day, she has her supply chains. It's all done for her because the business is already set up, and it was just someone looking to sell it because they were retiring. So just we're learning a lot in that process, because that's when we really we find true freedom, is when survivors of trafficking and exploitation are given a way to sustain themselves economically. That's when we found that they are truly free. And that's what's awesome. So many of our survivors are doing so many amazing things. One of the things that happened toward the end of the year, actually today, one of our survivors is turning 13 today, and we're recording a birthday cake for her. And I just love it. Like, it's just awesome. I just love engaging in this conversation of, like, well, what kind of birthday cake do you want? But one of our probably a little MVP this year, a survivor who's just working so hard to get a job, to start her own business, to finish high school. She's starting an in-home salon, and so she's looking to buy a table, and like a table to where she doesn't have to, like, bend down and, like, do it on the couch, where she can actually, like, have people put their I don't know how nails work, but how they can put their nails, like, on this table, and neither party's back is strained. And so we're talking about this, we're in discussion, and for her, it's you can tell it's the most important conversation that she's probably ever had. She's putting in so much detail. She's talking through the details. And like in the cosmic scheme of things, it may not be that important of a thing. Considering, like, the same day, we had another survivor come forward from the Victor Galarza case who requested that we help her get these videos taken down off Pornhub and X videos, which luckily we were able to accomplish, thank goodness. And now we have this amazing 22-year-old survivor that's just welcome into our family. But this little 15-year-old, talking about this table was the most important thing in the world to her. And for us, it was the most important thing in the world for us because it was important for her. And I love like that stuff. Just gives us so much energy, so much fire to work with these survivors and helping them get to the next step. Even if that next step may be buying a table for her nail salon, but for her it means the world. And it brings me so much joy to be able to support those things. And so this year we were also able to repatriate 45 survivors back home to their families. A lot of the cases that we work, there's a couple of different parties in Central America, South America, that will traffic women to other countries where they are rescued by law enforcement, but they need help to get home. They need help because they'll ask for help from their embassy, their consulates, but again, like, the wheels of government just move so slow, and it's not right that a mother of 2 kids has to wait in a hotel for 2 months while she gets $300 to purchase a plane ticket home. And so that's what we do. We've supported this in this way to help return survivors to their families. We've returned a lot of survivors. They were trafficked to Peru, back to Venezuela, back to Colombia, back to Peru. We've helped reunite 45 families this year. That's also a number that we're very proud of and thankful for. And this year, Libertas International, we were able to support over 200 survivors in some capacity, whether they're getting direct services from us or they were supported by us in some way via repatriation or via referrals. And, as there is coming to a close, it's the most important thing about Libertas International is our survivor care. Will for always be a survivor-centered organization. We will always lift the voices of the survivors. We believe that they are the best thing about us, and if that they are excluded from the conversation, then that is they were doing something wrong. If we're allowing their voices to die, we're doing something wrong. And we believe that survivors can speak for themselves. They just need an opportunity to do so and given a platform to do so. And so that number just means so much to me because I can see their faces. I see their joys. I feel their pain. It's just such an honor for me to walk with them in this journey and to ask for support on their behalf, because I know I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for them. And so as 2023 comes to a close, it's been an amazing year for Libertas International. We know we're just getting started, and the next year will be even better and even more terrible. It seems like the evil that we confront every single year just kind of one-ups itself. And there's still some cases from 2022 involving some really bad people that have still not been brought to justice. And so we hope that those people are brought to justice this next year. And so there's so much good that's being done, but the evil continues to escalate as well. And so we need your help and support to continue to fight this evil, to continue to support these survivors in their healing. And so as this podcast comes to a close, my pleading message to you is please go to libertasfreedom.org and become a monthly donor. Our monthly donor are the people that always have our backs, the people that we know that will donate to us every single month, whether it be $25, $5, $100, whatever it is. It's something that we can count on every single month to support our survivor family, because every single month more survivors come to us asking for help. I'll close with this. We had a survivor that came to us about a month ago, sweet little 15-year-old thing, very skinny, very small, and her mom has Down syndrome. So she has, and her dad left her. She was a product of a very violent assault against her mother, and this girl loves her mother very much, and so she's stolen, she's side hustled, she's done all these different things to survive, to help her mother make ends meet at the house. And one day, an American guy who we hope will be in handcuffs by this time next year, we can say his name, contracted her to clean his apartment as a maid. She went there, and he would not let her leave, and he would not pay her until he was allowed to rape her. And then on top of that, he gave her an STD. And so she came to us asking for help, asking for healing, asking for support, and asking for justice. And because of our monthly donor base, we were able to say, yes, you are welcome here, you are loved here, you are safe here, and we're going to do everything we can to help you heal and to pursue justice on your behalf, because what happened to you is not okay. And call it justice, call it vengeance, whatever. We're going to go after this guy. And we're going to make sure that people hear us as we continue to advocate on your behalf, because we will never allow your voice to die. And it's because of people like you, our supporters, our monthly donors, our corporate givers, our everybody. Everyone that has ever written us a check at Libertas International, you are the reason that we can do this, and we can say to this little girl, you are welcome here, you are loved here, let's get you some help, let's get you some education, and let's go after the guy that hurt you. So please, at the end of 2023, to start 2024, please go to our website, visit libertasfreedom.org, become a monthly donor, make a donation, and help us to do this work, because it's life-saving work. We're just getting started, and we need your help to continue to grow. So that's our 2023. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening this far. We couldn't do this without you. You are just as much a part of a team as anybody else. I love you very, very much. Please continue to support us. Please continue to donate to us, because we do good work, and we have the bravest, most beautiful survivor family in all the world. So visit libertasfreedom.org, become a monthly donor, become a donor, and let's make 2024 just as good as 2023. This is Tyler signing off from Libertas headquarters. Have a great night, and thank you again for your support for Libertas International and the survivor family that we work with.